Good morning, thank you very much for joining me. I've had quite a lot of new viewers recently. Oh sorry, I've got runny eyes. That's the trouble with filming outside. As soon as I come out, my eyes start running. Ought to be wearing my sunglasses really, but it's kind of weird doing a video with sunglasses on, isn't it? Anyway, I've had quite a lot of new viewers recently, so I thought it might be nice to do one of my sort of about my background type videos. Sorry, I'm just fiddling about with my hair because I'm in a rush today. I've left it to the last minute to film this and I just haven't done my hair properly. Actually, in my defence, I'm going for a haircut later on today in about an hour or two actually, so I'm very much looking forward to that. So it was just Alice Band and Hope for the Best this morning. That's the name of today's hairdo. Alice Band and Hope for the Best. There we are, we just have to go with how it looks. Anyway, yes, I thought it would be nice to do one of my videos, like my Storytime videos. I will link in up here for you the videos that I have done before in this series with a bit of background about me and my life and all that sort of thing, and various stories about things that have happened to me. They're called my Storytime videos and I have a whole playlist, so yeah, I will link them up there. So today I thought I would give you a quick potted history of all the jobs I've had, my career to date, if you like, as you would call it on a CV. Many years since I've had a CV, but yeah, a quick whiz through the jobs that I've had. And going back to my very first proper job was in a supermarket cashier when I was 16, and I had to wear a very fetching brown dress and a brown jacket and brown tights. How very fetching. It wasn't a nice uniform, but I worked in the local supermarket, Safeways, on the till, and I enjoyed it. We had great social life. There was lots of fun people who worked there. It was very part-time. I think I did 2 evenings and a Saturday every week. It was great fun. I worked with a lot of people that I knew from school at the time. I was in the 6th form doing my A-levels, and it was nice to have a bit of extra money, and I did actually enjoy the job. I think I probably enjoyed the social life and the camaraderie with my colleagues more so than the actual work. It was pretty dull, tapping numbers, because in those days they didn't have barcode scanners and you had to tap all the prices into the till. But yeah, that was my first proper job. So when I left university, Polytechnic in those days, I moved back to my parents in Bournemouth, and my first job after that was in a local hotel. It was a temporary job for 3 months, I think, or 2 months during the summer, and it was helping the PA to the general manager of the hotel organise a big golf tournament. It was a charity golf tournament being put on with like local companies would pay to have a team of golfers in the tournament, and they would get on their team a pro golfer, professional golfer, and also a celebrity golfer on their team as well. So they were paying for the fun of playing with pros and celebrities, I guess, and it was raised a lot of money for charity, and I really enjoyed that job. It was, as I said, it was only a temporary job for 2 months. It was based in a local hotel. It was quite a nice 4-star hotel in Dorset. It doesn't exist anymore. It's a load of old people's accommodation now, retirement flats. It was bulldozed a few years ago, which was very sad, but yeah, it was a nice place to work. I enjoyed the work. It was very varied and interesting, and I got to meet all the celebrities, Terry Wogan, Max Bygraves, those sort of people, although they were quite big celebrities at the time, I guess. This was back in the sort of late 80s, 87 I think, no, 88 it would have been. So yeah, that was quite a fun job for my first job. So after that I moved to South Devon to live with my boyfriend at the time, and I got another job in a hotel as conference and banqueting coordinator. This was a big 5-star hotel in Torquay. At the time it was quite a well-known hotel, and it was one of only 3 5-star hotels outside of London. and it was a beautiful location in Torquay, right on the sea. Beautiful big public rooms, really nice elegant hotel. I enjoyed working there. Again, it was the camaraderie between the young people. I enjoyed the work as well. The work was really varied. We were organising events from conferences for 600 people right down to weddings or 80th birthday parties, so it was very varied, and I really enjoyed that. I stayed there for a year and I felt like it gave me a good that was my first proper full-time, not temporary job, and I did really enjoy working there. I had two bosses and they were both really nice there, Angela and David, and it was quite casual. It wasn't particularly hierarchical. It felt quite nice. We felt very much all a team together rather than bosses and staff type of thing, so that was nice. I stayed there for a year and then I moved on to the cruise ships. I've made 2 videos about that, which I will link. I'll link the first one up there for you, and yeah, you can go and watch that if you haven't seen it already, if you're interested in my 4 years on cruise ships, 4.5 years I think on board cruise ships. It was a lovely job, one of my favourite jobs I've ever had, I think, and I look back on those days with great fondness, I really do. So by the time I left the ships, it was 1994, and by that time I had moved back to Dorset and I bought myself a flat in Bournemouth, and I came back and I did various temporary jobs for a while. I had a job in a big corporate bank. It was called Chase Manhattan at the time. Absolutely hated it there. It was very cliquey, the people were nice. I remember going into I'd been there for a week and it was the Friday, and I went into it. It was very smart there, everybody dressed very smart, and I went into work in a smart suit as usual and everybody else was in jeans. And I was like, as if I didn't feel as a new girl, as if I was sticking out like a sore thumb anyway. And I said, what's going on? They said, oh, didn't we tell you? We always have dress down Fridays. And they hadn't told me. It was just so mean. And I just felt, you know, that was just a sort of one thing that described my whole experience there, and I was only there for a couple of weeks and I asked the temp agency to move me. I really didn't like it at all there. So I then moved on to a secretarial job at social services, taking minutes, and this wouldn't be for everybody, taking minutes of child protection conferences. Again, this was a temporary job, but I had shorthand and they were looking for not a lot of people do shorthand these days, and I did, and or even back then it was quite a hard commodity to find, so it was quite a good hourly rate. And it was a weird job. I worked in an office with another girl who was very nice and very sweet. In fact, I taught her to drive, just remembered that. She was older than me, and she wanted to learn to drive and her partner wouldn't take her out. She had a little car and her partner wouldn't go out driving with her. He was a grumpy bugger, and I used to go out driving with her in the evenings, you know, just to go. I didn't actually teach her to drive. I sat in her car with her while she was learning to drive, type of thing. She was having lessons as well. But anyway, I digress. I worked with her and we did minutes of child protection conferences, took the minutes, and they were quite harrowing. I think I wouldn't have been able to do that job after having children, after I had Will. I think at the time it all seemed very far away and not very real, but some of the things I heard and had to write down when I look back of these meetings between childcare professionals, social services, teachers, social worker, you know, people, medical people, doctors, nurses, health visitors, all involved in some quite upsetting child protection cases. But at the time it was very much water off a duck's back, and I look back at that and think, I don't know how I did that, but I stayed there for 2 or 3 months anyway, and then I moved to a longer term job at a big, so unglamorous, big factory stroke offices for a big multinational company that was called Schlumberger. It was a Swiss company, and they manufactured parts for very boring testing equipment for PCBs. boring, I know, techie stuff, but it was a really lovely job. I was covering maternity leave, so I worked for the first couple of weeks with the job was PA to the marketing department, the marketing director and the marketing department, and I worked in quite a corporate environment. It was such a nice bunch of guys. They were all fun. We had a great social life, everybody, and that we went out a lot together and went for meals and drinks, and it was a really nice place to work. I was organising lots of foreign travel, doing lots of organising events, organising people coming to stay, so it was more sort of organisation and coordination than the secretarial work, which I was quite enjoying. Having done the social services job, which was very much secretarial work, I was enjoying the more interesting aspects to this job. And I was there from, well, for the whole of Joe's maternity leave, and she came. It all worked out quite well because they did offer me to stay, but in a different role. But in actual fact, I was moving back down to Devon at this point to live with Ashley, so I was wanting to leave anyway. And then Joe came back full time, the girl had gone on maternity leave, and so it all worked out quite well. So I think I was there for about 9 months, and then I moved down to Devon. This would have been in 1996. My first job when I came back to Devon was a job in an agricultural college which was affiliated to Plymouth University, and they were setting up a food technology centre, basically to provide assistance, economic assistance and practical assistance to small and medium-sized businesses in the food industry. We have a lot of businesses in the food industry down here in the southwest. It's quite a big part of our economy, and lots of small businesses as well, and it was quite interesting work. However, and I also had my own office in this beautiful building that used to be the dean of the campus's house, and it had been taken over for offices, and I had a beautiful office with French doors leading out onto a stone balcony and down into an absolutely beautiful garden. But it was such a lonely job. It was just me and the manager. There was just 2 of us initially, and subsequently we employed 2 more people for the food technology centre, but they were all out of the office a lot. That was the nature of the work apart from me, and I was doing admin and office work, you know, and it was a very lonely job, really lonely, and I hated the lack of, I could go to a different building and have coffee with some of the other secretaries, which was fine, you know, mid-morning coffee, so I did see people, but if I sat in my office all day, I literally wouldn't see another living soul a lot of days, and I really didn't like it. And I managed just under a year there before I moved on, and I then went to do something that I'd always been quite interested in doing, and I became a recruitment consultant. Oh my goodness, that was not a good move. I really wanted to be, having done quite a lot of agency work on the other side, I had seen quite a lot of the job that I thought recruitment consultants did, and I was really interested in the aspects of putting the right people into the right jobs and that sort of thing, and it didn't work out like that. It was in Exeter, and I won't mention the name of the company because I think they still exist, and I loved the girls I worked with, but the manager was vile, absolutely vile. He was horrible, and it was a very, very salesy environment. You were expected to hit sales targets. There was a lot of cold calling because it was a newly set up branch of the company in Exeter, so they didn't have a client base, and I just hated that. I am in no way a salesperson. I'm not a cold caller, and I really, really didn't enjoy it. Also, it was not great money. A lot of it was commission based, and because we didn't have a big client base, and we're just sort of setting up from the ground upwards, we didn't get lots of commission. There wasn't a lot of commission to be had at the time, so the money wasn't great, and we worked really long hours. I think it was, looking back, I mean, I'd worked long hours on the ships. I wasn't afraid of hard work, but it just was long hours, and the straw that broke the camel's back with that one was the fact that we used to have a night service. We would switch, because we were employing a lot of industrial temps and lorry drivers, but they were doing shift work, and so the whole company had a night service which we switched our phones over to at 6 o'clock in the evening, and any client calls that came, or any calls that came in, were dealt with by the night service, or supposedly dealt with by the night service. And one night, at 4 o'clock in the morning, my phone rang at home. We didn't have mobiles in those days. This was 1997-ish, I think. We didn't have mobile phones in those days, and so it was my home phone that rang. And when your phone rang in the 2 o'clock in the morning in those days, or 4 o'clock in the morning, whatever time it was, you immediately thought someone had died. You know, it was horrible. And it was the bloody night service phoning me, asking me if I had any temps available to go into work, to work a shift at some factory. And I think at that point Ashley said to me, for God's sake, Caroline, you're doing this job, you don't even like it, and you're getting phone calls at 2 o'clock in the morning for 12 grand a year. This is ridiculous. I agreed. I saw his point, and that sort of started a seed in me, thinking maybe I should just jack it in, maybe I should just call it a day. I'm not happy in it anyway. Anyway, within a couple of days of that, I was in the office, and the phone rang, and I picked it up, and it was my mother, very upset. And she said, did you not get my message? I phoned and I spoke to your boss an hour ago, and I asked him for you to ring me back urgently. And I said, no, I didn't, ma'am. I'm really sorry. What is it? And she'd phoned to tell me that my grandmother had died. And the boss hadn't even bothered to pass the message on. I was close to my grandmother. She lived with us when I was growing up. So I was quite upset about it. And the boss didn't even apologise. When he found out what she phoned me for after I put the phone down from the call, he still didn't apologise for not having passed the message on. And do you know, I didn't even walk out then. I stayed, I finished the day's work, I got in my car, I drove 100 miles to my mum and dad's. I didn't even go home and get stuff, and I never went back after that. And in actual fact, my letter of resignation crossed with theirs, firing me, so in the post. So it came to an abrupt end after that, and I'm not sorry it did. It wasn't a good year, that, at all. So I have to say, I am glad that, looking back, that I did go and try doing that job, because I did fancy doing the job. So I'm glad nothing ventured, nothing gained, as they say. So from there I moved on to a job locally, very close to home, very close to Ashley's office actually, as PA to the chairman of a big group of garages, car dealerships, and I really enjoyed that. It was lovely being closer to home, not having the commute. I was very autonomous in that job. It was just me and the chairman, and he was a very nice guy. He was often off doing other things, as he was also chairman of the Bournemouth Symphony Orchestra. That was sort of his hobby on the side, and I dealt with all the managing directors of all the garages in the group, and it was a very interesting job. I really enjoyed it. It was a real get your teeth into job, and I enjoyed that very much. I left there to go on maternity leave in January 2000. I had Will in February 2000, and I wanted to go back part-time. I would have liked to have gone back part-time, but it just wasn't. It was one of those jobs that it just couldn't really be split between two people, and so with regret I didn't go back. But yeah, that was again one of my favourite jobs, looking back at my career history. From there I then moved on to, when William was 5 months old, I started work at the local council in a job share in the, what department was I in? It was architects and things, the property department at the local council. It was 2 days a week, it was a job share. It was pretty boring, but it sort of ticked the boxes that I was looking for at the time. I was wanting some basic office work, something to get me out of the house a couple of days a week. Being a full-time mum, I found was not, I preferred to be out at work some of the time. I think I had the perfect balance. I worked 2 days a week. Will went to nursery. He really enjoyed that, and I was at home with him 3 days a week. I was also, by this point, doing eBay a little bit as well, so I was supplementing my income with a little bit of eBay on the side. And I stayed at the local council for 4 years until William was 4 till he went to school, and the reason I left really was because they wouldn't let me cut down to school hours. I wanted to be able to pick him up from school, and I couldn't, but because I had to work till 5:30, whatever it was, and so that was why I left. I stayed there 4 years. That went quickly, actually, looking back, those 4 years. So I had a few months, I think I had the summer off with Will before he started school, and then in the September I got a job as a clerk to governors at a local primary school, which involved attending the governor's meeting, taking minutes, quite regular committee meetings, again taking minutes, doing admin, mostly from home. It was only I didn't have to go into school other than for the actual meetings, and I did the rest of the work from home, which really suited me. And subsequently I got another job doing exactly the same in a different school to bump my hours up a bit, and I carried on doing those for several years, just trying to think back to when I finished the last one. But that was, again, I was doing eBay, building my eBay up while I was doing these 2 jobs. Will was at school, and then I think I gave the last one up in, I want to say 2017, so 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago now. And then since then I've been doing eBay full time. So I've had quite a varied career history, really. Worked lots of different places and done lots of different things, and enjoyed some of them more than others. But I am very happy with what I'm doing now. I have to say, I wouldn't enjoy going back. Oh, I should probably add as well, I recently, before coronavirus hit, I was going into Ashley's office to help him out with some admin stuff after his office manager left, on a very casual basis. But then, of course, coronavirus happened, lockdown happened. Someone asked me in the comments a while ago if I was on furlough from the estate agents. No, I was only there for about 2 weeks, and I was I was working for them on a self-employed basis anyway. But yeah, I was only there for about 2 weeks before we had to close down for lockdown, and I haven't been back again. It just hasn't really happened, and I'm happy really doing eBay, and YouTube has got a bit bigger now, and that's taking a bit more of my time. So I've decided that unless they're absolutely desperate for help, I'm probably not going to go back. I feel like there's really not enough time in my week. I'd also like to be able to go down to my parents more regularly than I have been doing. My dad's dementia's getting worse, so I want to be free to be able to do that as and when I can. So I think that brings us up to date with where I am at the moment. So I think this has been a bit of a long video, so I'm going to finish it off now. I hope you found it interesting or enjoyable. Let me know in the comments if you've had any funny jobs or awful jobs, or jobs that you've absolutely loved and been sad to leave, or what your favourite job was or your worst job. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you again on Friday for Thrive on Friday. Bye bye.